Yeah, good. I'm Jessica Ganawa, a lecturer in international relations at Flinders University in Australia, and I'm checking in with Maxim head of the Centre for a New World Order and Professor of International Relations at the National Aviation University in Kyiv. Thanks for talking to me today, Maxim.
Welcome, Jessica.
So first of all, I want to check in about the strikes in Kyiv that have occurred overnight, that I heard some reports in my daytime in Australia. So can you fill us in on what's been happening?
Well, yes, there were about 5 missile strikes in Kiev, railway infrastructure, due to the reports of authorities. I saw the video already, pretty heavy, and due to our military intelligence, the rockets were launched from airplanes in Caspian Sea, so it's about a couple thousand kilometers. Actually, Soviet rockets, missiles, Russians usually use during last couple of months. It was, I would say, about a month break after the last missiles reached Kiev during the visit of UN Secretary General, Mr. Guterres. Well, luckily I was sleeping. I didn't hear, but after you sent me a message, I checked up. Yes, the situation was crucial, and those people who live on the left side of Dnipro River woke up pretty early. It was about 6 a.m. Kiev time. So destructions pretty heavy. Luckily, so far there are no no one was killed. I guess one man was injured, but we should follow the news. It's up to date. That's the information known so far.
Yeah, and how do you evaluate the timing of these strikes? Like, do you think that this is connected to the offensive in Donbass and the fact that we're also hearing reports that Russia might be going a little bit on the defensive around Severodonetsk? Like, do you think that that's connected to the timing of these strikes, or do you think that it's random timing, coincidental?
No, of course it's not random, but I think it doesn't concern situation in Donbass and Battle of Donbass. There are several options, I would say, and things we should develop on. So first of all, as they are striking on railway infrastructure, it's huge and very important center in Kiev particularly, and not only for Kiev. So it concerns eliminating infrastructure for delivering weapons we receive from our Western alliances. So actually, that's what they keep doing during last 2 months already, since they started bombarding and launching missiles on infrastructural objects. And Kiev is the capital, of course. There are a lot of military enterprises, and of course it's a huge infrastructural center, railway, I mean, infrastructure for delivering weapons. It's one thing. Another thing, of course, as it's not the new one, just too scary. Ukrainian government officials that they can strike on Kiev and ruin it. And Moreover, it is connected with the latest statements of President of Russia, Putin. He just gave the first interview for quite a long time yesterday, and he said Russia will strike objects they haven't yet if the Western alliances of Ukraine will give us so much needed long-range missiles, rockets, anti-air defense system, etc. We were talking about. And as you know, President Biden this week finally made a decision to give us MLRS systems, but unfortunately only few ones. So it was a signal to the West and to Ukraine, because of course the most important infrastructural objects Putin, I mean, meant are the bridges which link Western Ukraine and Eastern Ukraine. And the Battle of Donbass and actually the territories Russians are trying to occupy are located on the left brink Ukraine. It is so-called left brink Ukraine and right brink Ukraine. It's historical names because if you look to the history, since 17th century, when there is a war between Ukraine and Poland, and we signed an agreement, military union with Moscow that time in 1654. Bogdan Khmelnytsky, it was hetman of Ukraine that time. It was the territory lately occupied by Russia and was a part of Russia. Even at the beginning of the 20th century, just Western Ukraine was mostly part of Austria-Hungary Empire, so-called Halachina, and Poland. So, and there are mental differences also, because that territories were for hundreds of years in parts of Polish Rzecz Pospolita, so-called, and Austria Empire, Austria-Hungary later. So, and the left bring Ukraine was part of Russian Empire, then later Soviet Union. After Second World War, these parts were united into one state, I would say, Soviet Republic of Ukraine, rejoined. But it's a historical issue. So usually, I mean, why I stress on it, Putin wants at least now to occupy left brink Ukraine, including Kiev, and of course southeast of Ukraine. And if he breaks, if he eliminates these bridges in Kiev particularly, it separates into he will split not only Kiev, I would say, because on the right brink, it's an old ancient Kiev. Yes, left side, it's industrial, highly populated, etc. He will split also Ukraine. And of course, it will be much more difficult to deliver weapons and troops to Donbass, where now the most severe battles and fights are taking place. So it's a signal both to Ukrainian government and Western ones. And another point I would like to stress on is that you know, these statements of President of France, of Macron, we shouldn't humiliate Russia, that peace plans from Italy, statements of ex-national security advisor Henry Kissinger about compromises. He felt blood, I would say, as predator. So he understood that realizing the risks of food crisis and following migrational crisis, European leaders they are afraid of it. They are ready to sacrifice Ukrainian national interests. They are ready and would welcome some of them, at least President Macron, Chancellor Scholz of Germany. They would be happy if we agree to save Putin's face, so-called, and to sacrifice our territories and to sign a peace treaty with him to prevent that food crisis and migrational crisis. So they care only about their national interests and not even national interests, by the way, because strategically they're absolutely wrong. That they can, if they prevent it or come to compromises with Putin, he will stop. They are absolutely wrong. We can discuss it in another episode why they are wrong from strategical point of view. But he understood that finally, again, he felt the weakness of them and trying to push to show that the situation could be more severe, and it will be also more and more migrants from Ukraine as well. It's also a threat for them because already more than 6 million have left Ukrainians, mostly women and children, and of course it's a burden for EU as well. Thanks, of course, to them. We appreciate it, their assistance. But, if we don't break Putin's backbone, I would say, his army in Ukraine, if they keep trying to reassure us to meet compromises with him that we should sacrifice our territories after officially, I don't know all the statistics, how many people were killed, how many children became orphans, but it's thousands, tens of thousands only in Mariupol. Due to latest statistics, the figure could raise from 20 up to 40,000 killed, and 1.5 million of Ukrainians were deported to Russia. I'm not talking about infrastructure. It's just several towns were swept off the surface of the earth already. Not only Mariupol, Severodonetsk. We'll discuss it in the next episode. So these are the reasons. I would say the most important one. So we should consider it not just okay. He again launched missiles. It's a message, as I mentioned, both to Ukrainian government, President Zelensky, and to our Western alliances to scare them, not only to stop giving us assistance and so much needed MLRS and air defense system, vice versa. It shows that we needed much more to defend our sky, to defend our infrastructure, because the more he ruins, the more European countries, particularly, they are promising us to give our assistance to rebuild infrastructure. So it's investment, you know. The more weapons they will give us, the less they will need to invest to their defense, and there are a lot of other aspects we can discuss later.
Yeah. Well, stay safe, Maxim, and thanks for the update.
You're welcome.